The Crusades and the role of the Church in shaping religious wars. Introduction. The Crusades, spanning from the late 11th to the late 13th centuries, were a defining series of conflicts that reshaped the religious, political, and cultural landscapes of Europe and the Middle East. Central to the Crusades was the role of the Church, which served as the driving force behind their initiation, organization, and ideological justification. The Church's ability to frame these campaigns as holy wars, grounded in theological and spiritual rhetoric, not only mobilized European society but also set a precedent for the conduct of future religious conflicts. This essay examines the role of the Church in shaping the Crusades, focusing on its theological underpinnings, the mobilization of society, the political implications of its leadership, and the long-term impact on the concept of religious warfare. Chapter 1. Theological Foundations of the Crusades. 1.1 The Concept of Holy War. The Crusades marked a departure from the traditional Christian emphasis on peace, introducing the idea of divinely sanctioned warfare. Augustinian just war theory. St. Augustine's principles of a just war provided the Church with a theological framework for legitimizing violence in defense of the faith. Militia Christi, Army of Christ. The Crusades reframed warfare as a spiritual duty, merging the roles of soldier and pilgrim. 1.2 Papal Doctrine and the Crusades. The Church's leadership was instrumental in defining the Crusades as religious wars. Papal authority. The Pope's call to arms, beginning with Pope Urban II's speech at the Council of Clermont in 1095, established the Crusades as divinely ordained missions. Indulgences and salvation. The Church promised plenary indulgences, complete remission of sins, to those who participated, creating a powerful spiritual incentive for joining the campaigns. 1.3 The Sanctity of Jerusalem. The Church emphasized the religious significance of the Holy Land to galvanize support. Jerusalem as the center of Christendom. The capture of Jerusalem by Muslim forces was portrayed as an affront to Christian sanctity, necessitating its liberation. Pilgrimage and redemption. The Crusades were presented as extensions of pilgrimage, allowing participants to combine martial valor with spiritual devotion. Chapter 2 Mobilization of Society. 2.1 Preaching and Propaganda. The Church's ability to mobilize diverse segments of society was crucial to the success of the Crusades. Crusade sermons. Clergy across Europe delivered impassioned sermons, emphasizing the spiritual rewards and moral righteousness of the Crusades. Imagery and symbols. The wearing of the cross, public oaths, and blessings by clergy created a sense of collective identity and purpose. 2.2 Recruitment of the nobility. The Church effectively targeted the nobility, leveraging their martial traditions and resources. Feudal obligations. The Church encouraged nobles to fulfill their knightly duties in service of Christendom. Papal alliances. The promise of spiritual rewards and papal support incentivized monarchs and lords to join and fund crusader armies. 2.3 Inclusion of the laity. The Crusades were notable for their broad societal participation. Popular crusades. Movements like the People's Crusade demonstrated the Church's ability to inspire commoners with its message of spiritual salvation and holy war. Women and non-combatants. The Church framed the Crusades as collective efforts, encouraging non-combatants to support the campaigns through prayer, donations, and logistical assistance. Chapter 3 The Church's Political Role in the Crusades. 3.1 Papal Leadership and Authority. The Crusades served to enhance the political authority of the papacy. Unifying Christendom. The Church positioned itself as the central authority capable of uniting Europe's fragmented feudal states under a common cause. Supranational influence. By directing the Crusades, the papacy asserted its dominance over secular rulers, solidifying its role as the spiritual leader of Christendom. 3.2 Diplomacy and alliances. The Church played a key role in forging alliances to support the Crusades. Relations with Byzantium. Pope Urban II's call for the First Crusade was partially in response to a request for aid from Byzantine Emperor Alexios I Komnenos. Negotiations with Muslim leaders. The Church engaged in diplomacy with Muslim rulers, particularly during later Crusades, to secure the safety of Christian pilgrims and holy sites. 3.3 Economic and administrative control. The Church managed vast resources to fund and sustain the Crusades. Tithes and taxes. Special taxes were levied to support Crusader armies, demonstrating the Church's economic influence. Monastic orders. Military religious orders like the Templars and Hospitallers operated under Church authority, providing both financial and military support. Chapter 4. The Crusades and the Transformation of Religious Warfare. 4.1 Shaping the Ideology of Religious War. The Church's framing of the Crusades established key principles of religious warfare. Divine mandate. The idea that wars could be fought in the name of God legitimized future religious conflicts. Crusader identity. The notion of fighting as an act of faith influenced the development of chivalry and knightly codes. 4.2 Expansion of the crusading ideal. The Crusades extended beyond the Holy Land, demonstrating the adaptability of the Church's concept of holy war. Reconquista in Spain. The Church applied crusading rhetoric to campaigns against Muslim forces in the Iberian Peninsula. Northern Crusades. The Church sanctioned crusades against pagan populations in the Baltic region, extending the scope of religious warfare. 4.3 Internal Crusades. The Church also used crusading principles to combat internal threats. Albigensian Crusade. The campaign against the Cathars in southern France exemplified the use of religious war to enforce orthodoxy within Christendom. Suppression of heresy. The Crusades provided a framework for later inquisitions and campaigns against dissenting groups. Chapter 5. The Legacy of the Church in Religious Wars. 5.1 Strengthening the Church's role in European society. The Crusades cemented the Church's position as the central institution in medieval Europe. Cultural integration. The Church's leadership in the Crusades reinforced its influence over art, literature, and education. Institutional authority. The administrative and logistical frameworks developed during the Crusades enhanced the Church's capacity for governance. 5.2 Long-term religious consequences. The Crusades had profound effects on interfaith relations. Christian-Muslim relations. The Crusades entrenched hostility between Christians and Muslims, shaping centuries of conflict and mistrust. Impact on Jewish communities. The Church's failure to control anti-Jewish violence during the Crusades contributed to widespread persecution and the marginalization of Jewish populations in Europe. 5.3 Influence on modern religious conflicts. The legacy of the Crusades continues to resonate in contemporary religious and political contexts. Crusading rhetoric. The language of holy war has been invoked in modern conflicts, underscoring the enduring influence of the Church's framing of the Crusades. Interfaith dialogue. The Crusades serve as a historical case study in the complexities of religious coexistence and conflict. Conclusion. The Church played a central role in shaping the Crusades as religious wars, blending theological imperatives with political, social, and economic strategies. By framing the Crusades as divine missions, the Church not only mobilized European society but also transformed the concept of warfare, linking it to spiritual goals and moral justification. This dual role as both spiritual leader and political actor allowed the Church to assert its authority and reshape the medieval world. The legacy of the Church's role in the Crusades is multifaceted, highlighting both the power of religious ideology to inspire collective action and the challenges of navigating the intersection of faith and politics. As a defining chapter in the history of religious warfare, the Crusades continue to offer lessons on the profound Chapter 6, the Church's role in structuring and sustaining the Crusades. 6.1 Administrative innovations by the Church. The Church developed administrative frameworks to organize and sustain the Crusades, showcasing its ability to manage complex, large-scale operations. Crusade councils. Regular ecclesiastical councils, such as the Council of Clermont, 1095, and the Lateran councils, coordinated the logistics, strategy, and spiritual guidance for crusades. Crusade preaching networks. The Church established a network of clergy tasked with recruiting participants, often using persuasive sermons and imagery to inspire action. Bureaucratic efficiency. Papal legates and local bishops played key roles in implementing the Church's directives, from collecting tithes to overseeing the distribution of funds and supplies. 6.2 Financing the Crusades. The Church's financial mechanisms were critical to the success of the Crusades. Tithes and taxes. Special taxes, such as the Saladin tithe, were levied on European Christians to fund Crusader armies. Indulgence donations. Many participants financed their crusades through loans or by selling land, often with the church facilitating transactions. Military orders as financial agents. Orders like the Templars and Hospitallers acted as bankers for Crusaders, creating systems that prefigured modern financial practices. 6.3 Sanctification of war. The Church sanctified every aspect of crusading, ensuring it aligned with Christian doctrine and rituals. Blessing of troops. Before departing, Crusaders received blessings and spiritual preparation from clergy. Integration of religion into warfare. Liturgical practices, such as the singing of hymns and carrying of relics into battle, reinforced the spiritual dimensions of war.